From the KELOLAND Digital Desk, I'm meteorologist Scott Munt. It's Friday, August 15th, and you're watching another episode of Weather or Not. In today's episode, we are looking at our severe weather that we've been having over the past 12 to maybe 18 hours with severe weather reports that we have received across western South Dakota and across western Minnesota yesterday afternoon. The weekend outlook, expect hot and humid conditions. That will continue straight into next week, and we'll discuss when we can see this heat and humidity eventually go away, when that heat and humidity breaks. And if we have time, Summer has questions for me. Summer, you're still here? There you are. There's camera 2 shot for you. Both Travis and Summer are working in the background. So if we have time, we'll try to answer some of Summer's questions. In the meantime, stay with us. You're watching the latest edition of Weather or Not. Showers and thunderstorms moved through the area earlier today, and it looks like we have more on the way as we do get into this coming weekend. This area of low pressure will be slow to move across South Dakota, and I'll talk more about that coming up a little bit later. But for this afternoon and evening, we'll watch for these showers and thunderstorms. I think the best chance to see that will be found across western South Dakota. There are scattered showers, thunderstorms as we do get into this evening. This is Futurecast at 8 o'clock, trying to show western, maybe south-central South Dakota with these developing thunderstorms. They'll move east and slightly to the northeast as we do get into this evening. And during the overnight, we'll see how much of these do hold together as they move across in the eastern South Dakota. I am continuing that chance for a scattered shower or thunderstorm across eastern KELOLAND as we do get into the overnight. Forecast for today showing temperatures in the 80s and 90s. We'll have that 20% chance during the day for a shower or thunderstorm, and it will be humid too. We'll have our dew point temperatures back to the 60s and 70s. And we had severe weather yesterday. Let's go ahead and recap some of that. First, starting across western South Dakota, we had a lot of reports coming in with some very strong winds into western KELOLAND. A lot of these just to the east of Rapid City, as we are looking at some of these wind reports anywhere from 50 up to near 70 miles per hour. As we do click on a couple of those values there for you, near Wasta up to 60 miles per hour. As that storm made its way east of Wall, it continued around 55 to 60 mile per hour winds, getting close to maybe the Kadoka area. We've had some of those wind gusts of around 55 to 56 miles per hour. We also had a couple of thunderstorms into west central Minnesota during the afternoon. That was a funnel cloud reported near Taunton in western Minnesota. That happened at 5:30 during the afternoon. Now, as that storm system made its way to the south during the afternoon hours, it dropped some hail northwest of Marshall. A lot of those hail reports coming in at around an inch in diameter, though getting close to 2 inches in diameter near Ghent. And that happened around 6 o'clock. Let's expand our view and move it into northeastern South Dakota, because we had some reports come in here with some strong winds and some large hail from the early morning hours east of Ipswich. We had a wind gust measured at around 54 miles per hour, but it went up to 71 just to the west of Britain. We also had some hail reports of Britain between 1.25 inches to maybe 1.5 inches in diameter, and those were from the thunderstorms earlier this morning at around 7 o'clock. We may have another round of severe weather as we've been upgraded now to a slight risk in central, south central, all the way over into Minnesota, as we are looking at those showers and thunderstorms to develop later today into, central, south South Dakota, eventually try to make their way into eastern KELOLAND during the overnight. Wind is looking like the main threat, as you can see that outline of maybe 15% in south central South Dakota into eastern KELOLAND. What that means is you take a point anywhere in that 15% highlighted risk and 25-mile radius around that point, you'll run that 15% chance of any thunderstorm that develops. It can have a wind risk with it of at least 57 miles per hour. And the hail risk is there as well for just about everybody, but that hail risk is in at 5%. And for a tornado to form, a lot of that is anticipated to our east, maybe toward the Twin Cities area and into, looks like, the northern half of Wisconsin. But it's not just a one-and-done deal. We'll also have chances for severe weather as we do get into tomorrow And this will last straight into Sunday as well, as we'll continue this high heat and high humidity across the area. So there's your outlook for tomorrow. It is a marginal risk. And then on Sunday, more or less, it does the same thing, as we'll have our temperatures in the 80s, 90s with that thick humidity in the air as well. So let's talk a little bit more about this weekend, as this area of low pressure will be slow moving across KELOLAND. It's starting Friday morning in south central South Dakota, and by the time we do get into Sunday, it'll move into southeastern South Dakota. So again, it is a very slow moving system. So that is the reason why we're continuing that 20 to 40% chance for showers and thunderstorms. And here's just a quick loop as to how this is expected to make its way through the area as we go through this weekend. And you can also see our chances for showers and thunderstorms along with it. We have a better chance for more widespread rain across eastern South Dakota, probably Saturday night and going into Sunday morning. Here is a closer look at what you can expect for Saturday. By the morning hours, we may have a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms across eastern South Dakota, anywhere from near Sioux Falls and areas to the north and to the northwest, though a lot of that may be concentrated to our east across toward the Twin Cities. And then as we go through the day, a lot of that moves to the east. We'll warm. Temperatures will reach the 80s and 90s. Futurecast trying to keep numbers in the 70s in north central and northeastern South Dakota. I think if you're not in the 80s, you'll be every bit of the upper 70s. And you'll also have that thick humidity too. So we'll feel very warm as we'll have our sticky conditions around due to those high dew point temperatures. As we get into the evening hours, there's that next round of showers and thunderstorms in south central South Dakota. So as we get into Sunday, I mentioned that low pressure system, slow to move. As it gets into southeastern South Dakota on Sunday, look at the chance for rain. It covers central and the eastern South Dakota Sunday morning. So it's that time frame of Saturday night into Sunday morning where I think is our best chance for eastern South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa to see rain over the next 2 to 3 days. As we go through the day on Sunday, a lot of that tries to go away. We'll see what redevelops as we get into the later part of the afternoon and evening. So it is the cycle that we're on. We'll probably start the day with these showers and thunderstorms in the area. We'll bring in some stable air as we go through the morning hours, but then things do reload during the afternoon and evening. Our instability starts to increase as our temperatures start to go up to help bring in our next round of showers and thunderstorms that probably hold off into the evening and overnight. So I would say our best chance that we have at seeing our showers and thunderstorms will probably be at night and spilling over into the early morning hours. Been mentioning this heat and humidity that's been here, it seems like for the past couple of days. We did get a break from it, but it looks like as we do get into this weekend and for much of next week, expect the high heat and humidity. And I'll talk more about that coming up as you continue to watch Weather or Not. Looks like our heat and humidity will continue for today and going over the next several days. Here's a look at our dew point temperatures for this weekend. Numbers in the low to middle 70s. That will cover central and eastern South Dakota. That's the sticky air that you have as you walk outdoors. That's air you can wear when you get those numbers in the low to middle 70s. But an interesting thing is western South Dakota starting to see those dew point temperatures in the 60s, where it has been a lot drier when you look at these types of numbers over the past several days. They will start to get into some thicker humidity. That was a look at Saturday, and it continues right into Sunday with dew point temperatures in the low to middle 70s throughout central and eastern South Dakota. And then as we continue through next week, we stopped it here on Tuesday, upper 60s, lower 70s, central, eastern KELOLAND, lower 60s do remain across western South Dakota. As we look at our heat index, we'll stop it tomorrow afternoon as it looks like we'll have another day with that heat index in the triple digits. You see that across southeastern South Dakota. I'll say anywhere from Mitchell to the east to include Worthington, Minnesota, and areas to the south, a pretty good chance to see that heat index in the upper 90s to the lower 100s. So let's look at Saturday's heat index. Can we do it again on Sunday? Well, it's possible. Right now, the computer's thinking that we'll get our heat index numbers into the middle 90s. I would not be surprised to see those temperatures try to return closer to maybe 100 in southeastern South Dakota and the Iowa and parts of Minnesota. But we're also watching for some cooler air. It's not right away. It's not, a 1-2 day deal of this heat and humidity and then it breaks. We're looking at this to continue as we do go through much of next week. And then as we get into, say, next weekend, that will eventually start to see some better signs of bringing in this cooler air from the north. Here's a look at our 500 millibar pattern. Now, again, we look at this. This is more or less splitting the atmosphere in half, where we have high pressure, low pressure, troughs, ridges, and they help us determine, what we can expect with the weather. And this goes out about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. So we're picking up on that high pressure system that is to our south and to our southwest. And that's a good area for the heat. That's the core of the heat. And then around that is where we typically start to see our showers and thunderstorms, much like what we've had throughout much of the summer, able to bring in these shower and thunderstorm chances that do ride that heat dome that tries to set up to our south and southwest. As we get into early next week, Tuesday may not be an exception either, as we'll have high pressure to our southwest, centered over Colorado. We'll continue to follow what cascades around that area of high pressure, as we may have these disturbances of low pressure that do ride the core of that heat. So that will help bring in our showers and thunderstorms as we begin early next week. And we'll see how long that lasts. And then things try to flatten out a little bit. Here again is high pressure to our southwest. And then as we do go into this coming weekend, more of a northwest flow here in the higher layers of the atmosphere. Well, what does that mean? That means we'll have to time things coming in from the west and from the northwest. May also help bring in some cooler air. And we are looking at some cooler temperatures that will arrive as we go into maybe the second half of next weekend and continuing into the following week. I would say that last week of August could get a little interesting, seeing how much we actually cool as we do get into next weekend and the early part of next week. Going out to August 26th here, things try to flatten, more of a west to east type of flow in the atmosphere. But as we hit the button again and go into the last couple of days of August, I'm real interested to see what happens here. This will be a decent trough that's trying to move through the upper plains. This is getting close to the last couple of days of the month, as this will help bring in probably some much cooler air that will try to work in right behind it. And along with it, we'll also have to watch for our chances of showers and maybe a couple of thunderstorms from time to time. So there's our above average temperatures. That covers much of the central United States. And that, of course, also moves across into the northern plains. That's going into early next week. And we have temperatures in the 80s and 90s for our forecast highs. And then it's next weekend. We're starting to see some hints of some cooler weather that'll try to come in across the northern plains. And then as we get into Monday, Tuesday, yes, those temperatures will start to fall. We'll probably have numbers in the 70s. That's what I noticed earlier as I was putting together forecasts this morning. Notice as the later we go through the month, those temperatures do start to fall, as we'll have our numbers probably below average as we get into maybe the 26th of August. How long does that last? Well, that may last a couple of days because the model's already trying to warm us as we do get into the 29th. But keep in mind, I drew in that trough right there, colder air trying to work in right behind it. So as we get maybe beyond the 29th, we'll probably get that another push of colder air trying to work in across the upper plain. So that'll be interesting to see if that happens. Not quite sure where Summer went. Hang on a second. I'll yell across the newsroom. Hey, Summer, do you have any questions for weather? Oh, she said yes. So I'll let her get situated, and we'll be right back and see what kind of questions Summer has for us. Welcome back to Whether or Not. Look who has joined me. Summer, waving to the camera. How are you doing?
I'm doing
It was
pretty
your
good.
idea.
It was my idea.
To go ahead and say, hey, I have some questions. If you have time on Whether or Not, I have some questions for you.
I really do and you meteorologists are so smart, right? So you understand all these things, but sometimes
BK's here, I'm right here. Okay,
you
got that right on this camera. BK's here, I'm here.
I'm all the way down on the desk, if not beneath it. So
that's okay.
You guys are doing great.
Well, thank you for joining me. This is the first time I've had a
me.
guest besides Brian Karsten.
Yeah. So hey, if we're just going with the flow right now,
right? And why not? This is a a place that we can do that. But you walked by and you said, "Hey, Scott, if you ever have time on your show, doesn't need to be today, but I may have a couple of questions for you about your weather terminology."
Weather terminology, because, like I said, you guys are so smart that sometimes I ask you in commercial breaks, like, "What did you mean by that?" Like, I didn't quite understand, just because you're so used to it and I'm not. So. Okay, so one of the first things is you guys have kept talking about a cap the past couple of weeks.
Yes.
And so quickly go over a cap, and then I'm going to lead into like my main question that I had.
Okay. Well, a cap in the atmosphere, and this is kind of funny too, because years ago, I had an internship.
Okay.
So I was still in college, and the meteorologist at the time was more or less talking about the same thing. Oh, we won't get any thunderstorms going because of the cap in the atmosphere. And this was back in 95. And back in 95 in Chicago, we had a huge heat wave that moved through. Okay. Well, I wasn't quite sure on what the cap was. So I asked him, I said, Tom, what's this cap that you keep talking about? And the easy way that he explained it to me is, well, you just get this heat that continues to stack upon itself in the atmosphere that it's hard to get thunderstorms to develop.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because there's too much heat there. To get clouds to develop, you need to, raise the air up, and it condenses to form clouds. Okay, you're bringing up that moisture into the colder layers of the atmosphere. But when you have the heat that continues to build upon itself, you're not be able to get any clouds to develop. So, that's that cap that sometimes develops in the atmosphere as we have a lot of heat and even humidity that's around. Even though it's very humid, we can't get those thunderstorms to develop. Does that help?
Yeah. Okay. So that helps. But then, so here's the thing that Brian was saying earlier this week. I don't even know if it's still supposed to storm, but he was saying that the heat was going to trigger the storms. And so, we've got the cap that's the heat's not letting it storm, and the heat that is going to have it storm. So what's the difference between those two?
Right. Well, he's talking about the convective temperature.
Okay.
Think of the cap more or less as a lid on the atmosphere. Okay. Kind of like a pressure cooker type thing. And then as you're lifting these air parcels up, because, warm air rises, you're lifting these air parcels up. If it gets warm enough, say the convective temperature in the thunderstorm, this is what convection is, thunderstorm temperature is 97. Okay. We're able to get our forecast high of 97. That's going to break the cap. It's going to blow that lid off of that pressure cooker.
Okay.
Because you just got, how can I explain it? It's being almost too hot for the atmosphere to hold it, that it just continues to go up. And you blow that lid off the cap, and then you're able to get your condensation and everything to develop the cloud cover.
Okay.
Does that one help?
So if it's too hot, the cap blows.
If we get to that convective temperature, then the cap can blow, and then we get these thunderstorms to develop. And when that happens, they can go boom, 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 almost like, making popcorn, and you're able to bring these thunderstorms that go rather quickly too.
That's crazy. Now, another one that I have to ask, and I don't know if there is even an answer to this, but
I'll make one up. I'm in weather. I make it up anyway.
That works for me. Obviously, I'm from Watertown, and the Watertown area has been hit so hard this summer. Is there like does somebody have a pinpoint on it? It's like Watertown's just going to get it this summer?
It's funny. Anytime we put a forecast together, we're usually looking at different weather patterns or different cycles that tend to develop. Yeah. And unfortunately, Watertown has been one of those areas where when we've been getting these showers and thunderstorms to roll through, they've been the bullseye, the epicenter of, seems like, a lot of this weather during the summer months.
Seriously.
So, a lot of weather, as we do go, as we study it and we also look for the future, is we're trying to pick up on these patterns, different cycles that do develop. And unfortunately, some of those short-term patterns that develop maybe in just one location, such as Watertown, to where, when we get our thunderstorm chances in our forecast, Brian and I were talking about this too, saying, I bet that Watertown probably has the best chance to see these showers and thunderstorms just because that's what they've been getting throughout much of the summer.
Yeah, that's so weird. And then maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I didn't pay attention to the weather before starting here, but it seems like I've never heard of storms, I think, this late into August, or at least this bad of storms. Is there a specific reasoning, or like, has it just been the trends, or what's up with that?
Well, it's funny that you bring up the word trend again, because that's something that we've noticed before. It seems like the time of year where we have our most severe weather at its peak is usually that third week of June. And that's when we have those big destructive storms. Unfortunately, those larger tornadoes, if we get tornadoes, usually happens that third week of June. And we can go back in history and give you examples of that too. And then we've noticed over the past couple of years that things start to ramp up again as we do get into August. And sometimes that does spill over into September. We know about those Sioux Falls tornadoes in September. That could be a sign of, the changing jet stream too. The higher you go in the atmosphere, you have these winds that will blow across the country, and they kind of divide warm air and cold air, and they're the steering currents for our storm systems too. So we've noticed that starts to change as we get into the later summer months and spilling over into September too, that things do get ramped up. We're still battling the warm air masses and the cold air masses, such as what's expected to come in next weekend with this cooler air mass. Well, I wouldn't be surprised with all this heat and humidity that's around that we can see another round of thunderstorms, and fortunately they may be strong to severe.
Yeah. When you say like the jet stream changes, does it have it marked on its calendar, oh, hey, it's August, or is it like have to do with the season?
That has to do with the changing of the season.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. We're dealing with sun angle and amount of daylight and the changing of the seasons as we do go through the year. So yeah, the jet stream changes to that. And then as we do get into, more of a prolonged forecast of, we're looking at the jet stream and how it has an effect with El Nino and La Nina. You probably heard those terms before. Yeah. Yep, that will have an effect on the jet stream too, the positioning of it as we go through the winter months. And that's something I pay close attention to when I come out with my winter forecast.
Yeah, how soon does that come out?
That will be in October with the KELOLAND Live Doppler Winter Special. I believe it is October 27th is when it's supposed to air. I should check my calendar again.
I was going to say, I'll mark my calendar because I got some big stuff going on that I want to.
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Got to make sure it's good.
Anything else?
Honestly, for at least this week, you answered all of my questions.
Okay, good. Hey, you're welcome back anytime.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, you can have me back anytime. Like I said, you guys are too smart for me, so I like when we can break it down like
hopefully
this.
I explained it and you can understand it a little bit better. But go ahead and jot notes down during KELOLAND this morning and say, this would be a question I could ask him.
Oh, I got you.
Okay.
Scott. I'll be back. Don't worry.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us on this edition of Whether or Not Summer, and thank you for watching. Enjoy your coming weekend.